I want to begin by saying that I feel privileged to be receiving an education in which I'm exposed to the realities of various disabilities. 50 years ago, that may not have been the case. When I was in high school, I developed an extreme anxiety about public speaking. It was absolutely debilitating. While not exactly a disability, I suffered in school because of it. Every day, students are in schools who feel lost because of learning differences or disabilities. Fortunately, there are teams of professionals who provide the necessary scaffolding to support these students. I want to take some time to highlight my favorite points of each unit in this course. Let's start with the social construction of disability. Our society has a tendency to shy away from people with disabilities. This may be due to fear, stigma, or lack of knowledge. Ironically, the minority of disability is the only minority group we can join at any point in our life. We should have the attitude of inclusion, meaning people feel like they belong, they feel a member of the community, and they feel valued. In Unit 2, we talked about the history and legislation of special education. The main point I took away is that just a few decades ago, equal education was not a reality for students with disabilities. We're there now, but it took a lot of legislation to make that happen. IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, ensured free and appropriate education for all students. In Unit 3, we talked a lot about universal design for learning. As the PowerPoint stated, one size does not fit all. There are many different types of learning: musical, naturalistic, logical. I bet you've guessed mine already. I learn visually and love to draw and paint. In Unit 4, we watched a video that emulated what it's like to have a learning disability. It highlighted the fast pace of the classroom. Oftentimes, LD students need much more time to process what the teacher is saying. Remember me in high school? Well, I too was so fixated on my fear of being called on that I wasted all my energy worrying instead of focusing on learning. Even though I explained my concerns to my teacher, she was unwilling to accommodate for me. I think about her often, and I have promised myself to always accommodate for others in my life if they have different needs. In Unit 5, we learned about deafness and deaf culture. Deaf individuals who identify themselves with deaf culture don't see themselves as disabled. However, as an aspiring speech-language pathologist, I think that cochlear implants are nothing short of miraculous and wonderful. That being said, I've developed a respect towards those who choose to identify with deaf culture rather than receiving cochlear implants. Next, we learned about emotional disorders and behavioral problems, including Jonathan Mooney's talk about ADHD. The biggest thing that hit me was the poor students that fell between the cracks because their emotional needs were not addressed. In the next unit, we learned about intellectual disabilities, including a discussion on autism. The biggest thing I took from this came from the video Voices of Autism. A quote has since stood out to me: "The soul must be loved as it is." This does not only apply to individuals with autism, but to all individuals we encounter. Next, we talked about traumatic brain injuries. This topic really hit home for me because my dad was hit by a car as a pedestrian about 10 years ago. He spent so much time trying to convince people that even though there was nothing really wrong with his body, there were extremely difficult problems with his brain. This is a good reminder that when dealing with people with TBIs, you really have to take a multidisciplinary approach. I'll end with this: we're all different, but all unique. Be kind and love one another.